Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier of Thinking Stamping and I'm an Independent Stampin Up demonstrator from New Zealand. And today I thought I'd share with you how I made this card, which I actually made for a colour challenge at the Paper Players, which is a favourite challenge site of mine. They recently had a black, white and pop of colour challenge and this was my response to it. And I've had a few questions about it off my blog, so I thought I'd share with you how I made it today. It's also using the Notes of Nature bundle, which aside from being absolutely my favourite bundle out of the entire mini catalogue, is also the featured bundle in the Creativity Abound Stamp Camp, which is happening in mid-February. And if you'd like to join me in that camp, please ask me how you can get yourself an entry to it. If you do that, you'll get 26 projects and tutorials for using this bundle. Anyway, this is really about this card though, and so we'll start off with what you need to make it. So I've used the Notes of Nature bundle as my basis. It's a lovely little bundle. I love the eclectic nature of the images and I love the little beautiful foliage die cuts, some of which we're going to use today. So obviously that's a plus, a must-have for making this card. In terms of cardstock, well, I'm using a basic black card base. It's my standard size, so it's half of an A4 piece of paper, so it's 21 centimetres that way, scored at 10.5, and I've cut it at 14.8. Now, if you're an imperial person, just use your standard size card base, and I'll tell you how to adjust the mats accordingly. So you've got your nice base. They need a piece of basic white for the front, which is half a centimetre or 1/4 of an inch smaller. So 10 centimetres by 14.3, which is going to be for the front. Now you need another piece of black, because you can see that there's a circle here. So you need a little piece of black, which I have used the largest of the stylish shaped circles for that. So whatever that is, it's about 8.5 centimetres, so a 9 centimetre square piece for that. And then there is another piece of white on that. Now I have used the deckled circles for that, but if you don't have deckled circles, you could use any other circle that you have. I've used the deckled circle which fits inside of that, and I think it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's about the 6th one out. Yep. So you need a little piece of white for that. You also need a little bit of white to stamp yourself 2 of these, and I have already done that, and I've die cut them and I've coloured them using stamping blends. Now my accent colour was Granny Apple Green, so that's what I've used, and I've used blends because that's what I like using, but if you prefer coloured pencils, you just go ahead and colour them with whatever you like, but you need enough paper for that. And you can see where I've cut the 2 of them and the circle out of a 10 by 14.3 sized piece. Now there's also some other bits and pieces you need for this cluster. So you need enough black to do yourself a sentiment, and I've already done that. I used Today Is All About You, but just a little hello would fit just as well. And I've white embossed it onto black, and then I have cut it using the largest of these stylish shaped stitched banners, which these are my constant craft room companions, this set. So I've done one of those, and while I'm at it, I have dropped on the floor the companion piece, which is a piece identical out of Granny Apple Green, and I'm going to layer those up when we get up to that part of the making. Now also out of the bits of black, I've done some die cutting. Now the die cutting is interesting because you're never quite sure how much you're going to need. Like when I made this card, I've got various other offcut dies that I haven't used, but in the end I did use 2 of that die in black, and I did 2 of that little die in black, and I used 2 of those in Granny Apple Green. Now it might be that you decide you're going to use some other combination of die cuts, foliage die cuts for that. You just go ahead and organise when you get up to it your little cluster, using the die cuts and the colour combos that you like. Now, the only other thing is we need something for the inside, and I am going to talk about that because I'm quite pleased with the inside of this card. What I did with it was this. So if you would like to emulate something like that, I've used a piece of Granny Apple Green, which is 10 by 14.3, and if you are an imperial person, that's just 1/4 of an inch smaller than whatever your card face size is. And then I took a piece of white, which was 1/2 centimetre or 1/4 of an inch smaller than that, so 9.5 by 13.8. And then it was simply a matter of, I stamped one of those in tuxedo black, and then I just took this eyelet die and die cut a nice little pattern. And I made sure that when I die cut that I did it sort of centrally, so that, you know, the holes were symmetrically spaced along the page. Then I just matted them together and popped them on the inside, and I think that was very simple but quite effective way of just jazzing up the inside of this card. So that's pretty much all that you need to make it. And if you live in New Zealand and you've seen anything that I've used that you would like to add, or that I used today that you'd like to add to your craft stash, then the links to my online store are in the description below, and they'll also pop up on the end card at the end of this video. Okay, so what are we going to do to make this card? Well, the first thing we have to do is stamp the background, and it's a pretty simple process. There's some places it can go wrong, but you know, when you're stamping, things can always go wrong. So you just need some basic tuxedo black ink. I've chosen to use that foliage stamp there, but of course you could use anything if you wanted to. You could use the grids, you could use the splatter, you could use whatever, but I liked the leaf. Now when you're doing this kind of all over stamping, okay, ink up, and I like to start nearer the middle. Now I'm not going to start exactly in the middle, because the middle on this card has got stuff over it. I'm also making sure that I hold down and press to 10, count to 10 when I'm doing my inking, because I don't want gaps. So I'm going to cross my fingers on that one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you want some to look like they're coming off the page, and you want them sort of turned around in different directions so that they look like they're tumbling. What I don't want is for it to look like a row of soldiers. Okay, so you've seen that I kind of worked my way out more or less from the centre, although I did start not exactly in the centre, and I probably should have. Work your way out and then filling in the little edges with just partial stamps, because you want it to look like a piece of fabric that's been cut. You don't want it to end up looking like a little row of soldiers all inside the piece, all inside the border, nice and neatly. Or at least that's not how I want it to be. So then when you've done that, you can just attach that to your card base. Now I've chosen, as I said, my accent colour is Granny Apple Green. I love Granny Apple Green, and I wanted that fresh, bright look, so I'm very happy to have used it here. But, you know, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't use whatever colour green is your favourite. You'd use Pretty Peacock, you could use Garden Green, you could use Mossy Meadow, you could do whatever you like. Heck, there's not even any reason why you have to stick to greens. You could do it in pink if you wanted to. You know, this is one of those designs that, you know, you can play with the colour and just have it turn out however you like. Okay, so when you've got that attached, now what I've done, I'm going to worry about the circle next, because that's the next thing that's going to go on. So I'm going to attach that, and then the one thing I'd say about this too is if you've had a bit of a mishap in the stamping, like say down here something didn't work so well, you can always change the location of where you're going to put your cluster and claim that you intended it to be that way all along. So this decollage circle, what I did was I did do some stamping on it. I just put a little bit of that distressed grid on it, and you can see it in here. It's an optional thing if you think that looks a bit messy or a bit too grungy or whatever, and you'd rather just have clear white, then by all means omit that. But I just liked that, just that little extra touch of detail. So I'm going to be brave and I'm going to attach it straight away. I am going to line up my card, because what I'm hoping for, or intending, actually I think I like it that way better, is for it to be slightly higher than the middle vertically and even horizontally. So let's just have a look and see. I think I've achieved that. Right, so when you've done that, then it's just simply a question of building your spray. And I'm going to start with those, and I always kind of work on opposites. So if I've got something here at, you know, if this was a clock, sort of 10 o'clock-ish, you can see there's the glue wiggle room in action. Then I'm going to match that up with a kind of a 4 o'clock deal. And also I'm looking at how much that's overhanging and how much that's overhanging. Now at this point, if you were, you know, at home with your die cuts and things, you know, play around with the arrangement that you like. You don't have to copy my arrangement exactly. I mean, obviously you're welcome to if you want to, but you don't have to. You can play around with your own combination of die cuts and way that you're going to arrange them. Now, I'm not mucking around with it because I've already played around with it when I made my first card and I know the arrangement that I want. So I'm just cracking into it. And I guess the point I'm making is that, you know, you can experiment. You don't have to copy this card exactly unless you want to. Now, and now I'm going to put the green, the granny apple green. I don't know, there's something in me that wants to do the top before I can do the bottom. Not sure why. Okay. Now, you'll notice I'm just putting glue up the centre of the leaf. That's because I want them to have a little bit of lift in it. I don't want them to look absolutely glued dead flat. I want them to look, you know, I want the edges to be lifting off the page. It just helps them make look a little bit more lively. Now, before I go any further, I am going to just layer together my sentiment because I'm not sure whether I'm going to add in those little ones or not, so I want to just see what these look like. Now the nice thing about the stitching is, of course, it really helps you to get it straight because your eye can follow the line of stitching and see if they match up. When I add them on, I will definitely be dimensionaling, but at this point I just want to see what it's going to look like. Okay, so I think I am going to add in those little ones, but I'm going to add them in afterwards. So I'm gonna, now it's quite thick through the middle there because there's a few layers of stem, so I'm going to concentrate my dimensionaling at the ends and just kind of let them, even though, you know, you'll have heard me talk repeatedly about how much I hate the sag in the middle. In this case, there's something supporting the middle. So if I put dimensionals in the middle, I'm going to get not a sag, but an arch, and I don't like that either. So I'm going to line that up roughly straight with my grid lines, and that will hopefully help me keep that straight. So I'm just going to have a little check and see if that is straight, because until you press the dimensionals, you do have a chance to move them. Okay, so now we've got that, and now I can just see whether I want to just scooch those in there or whether I like them better without. Yeah, what do you reckon? I think I am going to scooch them in, but I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm firstly just going to cut it a tiny shade shorter so I can scooch it in there a bit better. And I'm only going to glue at the end because I want it to have lift. So I'm going to scooch it in there. I'm just going to use the end of my tweezers to press, and I'm going to do the same. Well, that one's got a bit more room, so I don't need to trim him, but I am just gluing at the ends. And you can see how that lifts up in a quite pleasing way. And that's just because, whoops, Perhaps I was wrong about having a bit of extra room in there. I know. There he goes, and I'll just use the tweezer to press it. Okay, so now we're almost there. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in some bling, and I'm going to come back to my good old favourite, basic rhinestone jewels. Go with everything, and I think they fit sort of the crisp look that we've got going on with this card. Obviously, depending what colour you used, you could use any embellishment that you've got. Right, the other thing I like about these is they do come in 3 sizes, so I love a 3-sized deal. So I'm going to go big, whoops, big, middle-sized, whoops, and baby. There you go. So there is my Notes of Nature black, white with a pop of colour birthday card. And as I said, you can do that in any colour way that you like. You could do it in pink, you could do it in orange, you can do whatever you want. But anyway, I hope you give it a go and enjoy the process. Remember, if you want to join me for the Notes of Nature Stamp Camp, ask me for the details. Don't forget that if you live in New Zealand and you've seen anything you want to add to your craft stash, then you're more than welcome to shop with me, and the links in the video description below. I'm always happy to answer questions, and I can be reached again through the contacts in the video description below and in the end card which is about to pop up. If you've enjoyed what you've seen and you haven't subscribed, please do so you don't miss anything new that I do. And above all else, everyone, happy stamping.